Welcome back, everyone, to F1 Blogs. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating story, McLaren's incredible 2024 Formula One Constructors' Championship win.
It's a story that really rewrites the rules in a lot of ways.
Yeah, as a customer team, I mean, that was unheard of a couple years ago, right?
Completely unprecedented. I mean, it really challenged the belief that to win in Formula One, you absolutely have to be a factory team designing and building every single part of your car.
Right. So for those of our viewers that maybe aren't super hardcore F1 fans, what does that actually mean, customer team?
So a customer team is essentially a team that purchases their engine and sometimes other key components from a manufacturer that also has their own factory team competing in the championship.
So they're going up against the supplier in a way.
Exactly.
Wow.
It creates a really interesting dynamic, a bit of a David versus Goliath situation, but with a twist.
And in this David versus Goliath situation, McLaren's slingshot, we'll call it, was their partnership with Mercedes. And it was a clever partnership. They got the engine, but they kept control of a very, very crucial element, the gearbox.
Yeah, the gearbox is often overlooked, but it's so much more than just gears, you know?
Oh.
It's really intricately tied to the rear suspension, the aerodynamics, the whole car's balance. And the fact that McLaren could design their own gearbox gave them this edge that you don't usually see in a customer team.
So it wasn't just plug and play the engine. They had some real control there.
They did.
To take advantage of it.
Exactly. And even more interesting, I think their relationship with Mercedes, it wasn't just a supplier-customer relationship.
It was deeper.
They were partners in a true sense.
Oh, wow.
They had constant communication back and forth.
Spicy.
They were giving feedback on the engine. McLaren was actually contributing to the development of that power unit. So it was a really collaborative process.
So a customer team was helping develop a factory team's components.
Yeah.
Wow, so they had this engine event, they had this close relationship, and then that gearbox freedom on top of that. That sounds like a really smart recipe. Yeah.
It was a real strategic masterstroke, and it's interesting to see how they got there. Remember, a few years ago, they tried to become a factory team themselves with Honda.
They did 2015 to 2017, I think it was.
Right around then. And that was a big push to recapture those glory days to really become a powerhouse again, but it didn't quite work out that way.
It's almost ironic when you think about it. I think it was Eric Boulier, their racing director, back in 2017 when they were having all those troubles with Honda as a customer team. He said winning as a customer team was just impossible.
Yeah, it's funny how things change.
I mean, it shows you how much the sport has evolved.
Absolutely. And how much McLaren themselves have adapted. They realized becoming a factory team, especially if the manufacturer is not at the top of their game, might not be the best path to victory.
So they flipped the script. They embraced the customer model with Mercedes, and they did it in a way that gave them that unique advantage. But let's be honest, even with all these advantages, they had some tough times, especially early in the 2024 season, right?
Yeah, they weren't exactly setting the world on fire at the beginning. Red Bull had a head start. Remember, they froze development of their 2023 car pretty early so they could focus on the 2024 regs.
And they gave them a big jump.
It really did.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So McLaren, they needed something big to kind of turn things around.
They needed a breakthrough moment for sure. And then came Miami.
Oh. With that huge upgrade package.
Oh, man.
New floor, new side pods, new front wing.
It was a whole new car.
Basically. Whole new car.
It was incredible. And that's where that gearbox freedom really came into play.
Yeah. I see.
They were able to integrate all those aerodynamic changes so much more efficiently. It allowed them to really extract the most from that upgrade package.
So the decisions they made early on really paid off.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Because they had the flexibility to adapt and respond.
Absolutely.
Wow. And from that point on, it felt like they were always there. They were a threat for race wins.
Yeah, they were fighting at the front consistently, you know, challenging Red Bull, Ferrari, the big boys. Landonorris and Oscar Piastri, those guys were driving incredibly well, but it wasn't just about speed.
Yeah, I was going to say, it wasn't just pure pace.
Their strategy was great. They were making smart calls in the races, taking advantage of opportunities, minimizing mistakes, real consistency.
And we've got to talk about the Formula One regulations, because those had a huge impact, right?
Massive impact. The playing field got leveled in a lot of ways.
What do you mean?
Well, the new regulations mandated that all power units from a manufacturer had to have the exact same specification. So a customer team like McLaren gets the same performance as the factory Mercedes team.
So no more of that stuff where the factory team's got the good engine and everyone else gets a slightly worse version.
Exact.
It's a huge change.
Huge. It really evened things out. And that coupled with McLaren's smart strategy, really created the perfect storm for them to succeed.
So they weren't just relying on the Mercedes engine being good. They were making sure that it was as good as it could be for them.
Yeah, they were playing a different game, like
Yeah.
they were playing chess and everyone else was playing checkers.
It's a real story of defying expectations. McLaren, the underdog customer team, taking on the giants.
That's Formula One, baby.
But how did they do it? Not just competing, but consistently outperforming some of these factory teams like Ferrari and Red Bull. That's what we're going to really dig into as we continue our look into McLaren's incredible 2024 season.
We'll break down the strategy, the key decisions that put them on top, and what it all means for the future of the sport.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break. All right, so we've seen that McLaren's success. It wasn't just about that Mercedes engine. They had a plan. They had that unique partnership, and they weren't afraid to take some risks. But the big question now is, can they keep this up?
Especially with the 2026 regulations right around the corner.
Yeah, it's a whole new world in 2026.
Massive changes coming.
So up until the end of 2025, engine development was frozen.
Right. Everyone was working with a pretty stable platform, refining those designs rather than creating something totally new.
And McLaren, with that Mercedes partnership, that stability really worked in their favor.
Absolutely. It gave them a solid foundation to build on, but 2026 throws all of that out the window.
Completely new power units, 50-50 split between conventional and hybrid power, no more frozen development.
It's going to be a whole new ball game, a real shakeup.
Yeah, and that makes you wonder, will this new era kind of reset things? Will it tip the balance back in favor of the factory teams with all their resources and in-house expertise?
It's a valid question. McLaren's success was partly because of those regulations ensuring everyone had the same engine performance. But with 2026, who knows what will happen?
Yeah, will that level playing field disappear?
There's a lot of uncertainty for sure, but I think it's important to remember what made McLaren successful in the first place. That strong partnership with Mercedes, that's not going anywhere.
And Andreas Seidel has said they're confident that relationship will only get stronger even with the new challenges ahead.
Exactly. So it's not just about the engine itself, it's about that open communication, the trust, the combined knowledge they've built up over the past few years.
They're carrying that forward into this new era. That's huge.
It is. But there's another piece of the puzzle here, and that's resource allocation. How do they balance maximizing their chances in 2025 with the current regulations and preparing for this massive shift in 2026?
That they're playing two different games at the same time.
Exactly. They're trying to defend their championship title while also laying the groundwork for future success.
It's a tough balancing act. Do they go all in for one last hurrah in 2025, even if it means potentially compromising their 2026 car?
It's a decision every team is facing, but it's especially crucial for McLaren because they're the ones on top right now. Do they prioritize short-term gains or long-term stability?
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how they approach it.
Big decisions ahead for sure. But one thing's for certain, McLaren's long-term goal is still to become a factory team again. They haven't given up on that dream.
So are we going to see them partnering up with another engine manufacturer soon?
Well, Andreas Seidel has a really interesting perspective on this. He said it's better to be a customer of a strong manufacturer than a partner of a mediocre one. It's about finding the right strategic alliance that aligns with their ultimate goals.
So they're being very deliberate in their approach.
Absolutely. They're playing the long game here. They're not going to jump into a factory partnership just for the sake of it. They've tasted victory as a customer team, and they're going to be very careful about how they take that next step.
It really shows their patience and their strategic thinking. They're not getting carried away by the 2024 win. They're thinking about the bigger picture.
It's impressive to see. They're not letting the success cloud their judgment. They're thinking long-term and making decisions that will hopefully set them up for sustained success.
McLaren's journey, it's a masterclass in navigating the complexities of Formula One. Adapting to those constantly changing regulations, forging those strong partnerships, and having the courage to make big decisions.
And it's a story about defying expectations. They challenge the traditional hierarchy in Formula One and prove that a customer team with the right approach can not only compete, but win it all.
It's inspiring stuff, and it raises a big question. Has McLaren created a blueprint for other teams?
Will we see a shift towards the customer model in Formula One? Could it be that the old assumption that you have to be a factory team to win is no longer true?
That's a question we're going to explore as we wrap up our deep dive into McLaren's incredible journey. We'll look at the broader impact of their win and what it could mean for the future of the sport. McLaren's championship win, it's really got people thinking like, Could this inspire other teams to go the customer route?
It's definitely a possibility, right? I mean, McLaren showed that with the right partner, you can still be at the cutting edge of technology and compete for wins and championships.
And you can't ignore the financial side of things either.
Oh, yeah.
Becoming a factory team, that's a massive financial undertaking. You need the facilities, the staff. It's huge.
You're talking about building an entire infrastructure for designing and manufacturing all those components.
It's a huge investment.
It is. And the customer model, it allows teams to really focus their resources on areas where they can maybe gain an edge, even on the factory teams, like aerodynamics, chassis development.
So it's not just saving money, it's about spending it smarter.
Exactly. And with the budget cap in Formula One being so strict, that's more important than ever.
Every dollar counts.
It really does.
So the customer model could be a way for teams to stay competitive in a more sustainable way long term.
It's a really interesting shift we're seeing, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see a future where the lines between customer and factory teams become even more blurred. Some teams might go for a hybrid approach, developing some parts in-house but sourcing others from manufacturers.
It's all about finding the right balance for your team, finding the right approach to maximize your performance within those regulations.
Finding that sweet spot, for sure.
McLaren's journey, it's a real lesson in adapting and strategic thinking.
They were paying attention.
Yeah, they recognized how the sport was changing. They seized the opportunity that the customer model presented, and they just executed their plan perfectly.
And they never lost faith, you know?
Their win, it's a real testament to their vision, their belief in what they were doing.
They believed in their approach, and it paid off big time.
And they sent a message to the whole F1 world, right? The old ways of thinking, they don't always apply anymore. You can achieve amazing things with innovation, with determination.
And a willingness to challenge those conventions, right?
Even if you're the underdog.
You don't have to follow the crowd to find success.
They really did prove that. And, you know, it's a story that's going to inspire a lot of people in the sport, drivers, engineers, team principals. McLaren showed that anything is possible in Formula One.
They showed the power of human ingenuity, how to overcome obstacles, how to chase excellence.
Well said. It's been fantastic digging into this story with you. McLaren's journey really shows how Formula One is always changing, always evolving.
It's a sport where the limits are constantly being pushed, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Absolutely. And a huge thanks to all of our viewers for joining us on this deep dive into McLaren's incredible 2024 championship. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want more Formula One insights and analyses, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll see you in the next one.